All right, my dear friends. I think what we're gonna do today, I know this is a little weird, a little different, but with me not there in person, I wanted to make sure everybody got the same message from today's lesson because there are some really important things you guys are gonna need to be going through in your writing. First of all, I want you guys to know I'm totally fine. I have a cold or something. I'm gonna test, on Sunday just to be sure. But you guys should see me back on Monday. I just wanted to be extra cautious and not come in today, since I can't test till a few more days. So, anywho, with that being said, I am gonna work through these notes today, and it's gonna be a little strange. First of all, I'm recording it first time through, so if I trip over my words or anything like that, I don't know, give me some grace because I'm really going to try to do this first time through. I guess it's not much different than when I trip over my words in class, right? All right, so we're going to go through these. I'm going to point out a few things. These notes should have been put over into your info writing notes, okay? You don't have a lot of stuff in that right now, but info writing notes is where this should be because I want you to be able to reference it next to your documents, your drafts, your final GMO papers, so that you can be going through this process when you start revising after the lesson, okay? All right, with that being said, today's revising lesson, like this says, is we're going to be doing transitions, quotes, and citations, okay? But first, I wanted to make sure I talked to you guys about something. So I've been reviewing your strengths and goals lately. What I've been grading, I've been looking through your work, and I noticed something that kept popping out a lot, and that was formal tone. A lot of you actually said that this was a strength that you have, which makes me so, so proud of you guys because that means that you actually, the purpose. You have your author's purpose in mind when you are writing. I know that in the past, you've done a lot of identifying an author's purpose, but when we become the writer and we are the author, you have to choose your own purpose. It's so important. You've got to be the expert and you have to sound, like I told you guys the other day, you straighten your little tie and go, I would like to tell you about GMOs because I am an expert. So make sure you are using that formal tone. I know it's super easy to slip into how you text and things like that. That has to stay out of this because you got to remember you got to sound like you are educating your reader, okay? Then I saw this. It kind of made me laugh a little bit because I know yesterday I did a big old song and dance for a bunch of you about the fact that we need to use more grown-up language. We're sixth graders and I want you guys to write like sixth graders. I want you to use precise words and I don't want you to talk to your reader. Just report the facts, okay? So I saw this and it kind of proved my point and, I love proving my point. So right here, guys, look. Doesn't this sound really, really similar to what I was hopping around and talking about yesterday, not doing in our writing? And then look, this was it was when I was looking for transitions for a good chart to use with you guys. And I saw this and I was like, oh, barf, it's that thing I was talking about. Well, see there, proving my point right there. Your example, 1st through 4th grade. That means you learned to write that way in 1st grade, and probably the latest it was acceptable was in 4th grade. So I just want to remind you guys, I am really expecting you to step up right now. I want you to sound professional. I want you to sound like the experts that you are because you've read about that research. So please make sure you sound formal. All right, now on with the lesson. Here we go. My first page here is about transitions in your writing, okay? I went ahead and said in here that writing needs transition words and phrases to link. Linking is so important here. Together your ideas and to help with the overall flow. Okay, they're usually placed at the beginning of a sentence, although sometimes they're worked into the middle of them to help connect an idea within a sentence. But two things I really want you to think about. I put some charts in here. I've got this chart here I thought was really, really good. This one also was pretty good. And they had different types of ideas because you've got, the clarifying. Oops, I'm off of my highlight. You've got the clarifying, showing relationships, and link. You've got opening and closing, which I know has to do more with your introduction and your conclusion, conclusion. Whoop, there's a trip. But this also could be just like opening up one of your body paragraphs. So think about it that way. And then we have some connecting ideas right here. So all of those are different ways to use transition words in your writing. And then there's these two other things here that I wanted to make sure that you paid attention to. I want you to make sure that you consider the relationship between sentences. Are you explaining evidence that you presented the sentence before? So that would be like when you'd be using these links, you know, and things like that, or showing a relationship, because you'd want to make sure that you were tying your unpacking back to your evidence, you know, or something like that. Then there's also, I want you to consider the fact that of the order of your evidence, okay? So that might be where you have your opening or your closing or something like that, okay? So use these lists. Make sure that you're looking at your papers. Make sure that you know that your sentences are flowing together nicely and it's not choppy. If you find yourself sounding like a caveman who is just listing facts off, you know you need transition words, okay? All right, so that was our first thing, transition words. Second thing we're going to talk about is quotations. I've given you a couple of examples here, and I'm not necessarily going to, go through them with a fine-toothed comb here because I think that you can do some of this work on your own. But I just wanted to give you a couple of examples. The first example comes from an article called GMOs and Babies, What's Hiding in Your Little One's Food by Jen Seinrich, I believe, and I got it off of page 2. I gave you an example of it right here, highlighted what I'm talking about. And this is when we're actually using a quote from a person that was in an article. You got to remember a couple things. You've got to recognize the resource in the sentence. You've got to give the name and titles of the speaker. You need to use proper punctuation in your quotation, and you need to cite the information to give credit to your resource. So putting in a quote isn't just about copying and pasting words, because you do have to get exact wording, but copying and pasting the words is simply not enough, okay? So I want you to see that. I have it down here again too, so you can see it. There's the quote. Here's what I had to write to make sure that I got my job done here, guys, that I really gave the information I needed for that quote. So here we go. It says, a representative of Schmidt Farms, Inc. in Ray, Michigan. Oops, I missed a comma there. My bad. Was quoted in an article called GMOs and Babies, What's Hiding in Your Little One's Food, giving the impression that that farmers saw. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry, you guys. Wrote that fast. That farmers saw benefits from GMO use and few negative impacts. Jenny Schmidt explained, this was great for farmers because it allowed them to reduce or eliminate insecticide use, as well as the toxicity levels of herbicides from older formulations that are more dangerous to work with. And then I have down there Seinrich, page 2. So if you'll notice, I actually took this same list from up here and just kind of shrunk it a little bit down here so we could use it. And I'm going to go ahead and underline parts that do these jobs, because you got to make sure you're doing all of them. Did I recognize the resource in my sentence? Right there. I've got the title of it right there. And then did I give the name or titles of the person who was speaking? Let's see. Oh, Jenny Schmidt down here. Oh my gosh, but look guys, look what I missed out on. I did not give her titles. There is an opportunity for more revision. That's the thing. Sometimes when you go through and you write this stuff, you actually realize afterwards, oopsie poopsie. There you go, Max White. I got another one on the list for you. I missed something, so I'm going to draw a little arrow right here to make sure that I insert her titles, which were comma M.S, comma R.D, period. Okay? So I'm going to make sure I put that in there because I missed that. And that is also going to be part of what I was doing here in that second one. Then I've got my proper punctuation as far as my quote is concerned. You notice I've got a comma here. I've got a quotations here. I end with a quotation, but I didn't put an end mark here because I knew that I'd have to put my end mark over here after I cited, okay? And then you've got the last thing there where you have to actually do the citation, which we see down here at the bottom, okay? So this is how you're going to make sure that you're fully giving credit and properly and accurately sharing your information. This is so important when you're doing research. It's just like math. I want you guys to think about math, and I want you to think about how often Mrs. Doran tells you guys that you have to make sure that you are proving why your answers are correct and showing your work. This is the same thing. You have got to back up your information, and you got to make sure that you're not trying to own information that you did not come up with. You got to give credit where credit is due. I have another example here of a quotation. Sometimes you're going to use an unspoken quote from a resource just because you like the way that the author stated the information, okay? So in this case, you see my example up here from How GMOs Are Regulated that was an article published by the FDA in 2020. I pulled this off of page 3 because I really liked the way the author talked about how the FDA, the EPA, and the USD have to work together to make sure that GMOs are safe in foods and plants, okay? So again, I went ahead and made that same list here. I've got my example down here at the bottom. It says, when listing the 3 agencies, FDA, EPA, US, and, I want to put, see, there, every time you go through, you might notice something. I hope you guys realize that this is like normal writing. I am 42 years old and I'm an English teacher. I still make mistakes, and it's okay for you guys to make mistakes too. Just make sure that when you're reading through, you catch those, you pay attention, and you grab them. Grab those opportunities for growth, guys, okay? All right, so it says, when listing the 3 agencies, FDA, EPA, and USDA, that work together to regulate GMOs, an article called How GMOs Are Regulated. Don't you love this? Shared collaboration and coordination among the agencies help make sure food developers understand the importance of a safe food supply and the rules they need to follow when creating new plants through genetic engineering. FDA, page 3. So again, here, check this out. Let's underline, make sure we've got our stuff. Did I recognize the resource in the sentence? Yes, I did. I've got my article title right there. And then I also let's see, I've got yellow here. It says give context for the information. Notice that's a little different from the one before, because before we were making sure we were talking about the speaker. Since there's not a speaker, now we just have to make sure we give context for what was happening around what we are quoting in this article. So in this case, that's when I say, when listing the 3 agencies, FDA, EPA, and USDA, that work together to regulate GMOs, then I talk about what the article said. So I'm talking about, in the article, they were already listing these organizations that work together. And then I went on to talk about the importance of their collaboration and coordination. So you see how I gave the context there for what was happening in the part of the article that I am actually going to do, or actually put in here. Again, proper punctuation, comma, your quotes at the end, your end mark moves out so that you can make sure that you cite properly. And then, of course, I do have my citation down there at the bottom. So I did my job again every time, you guys. We've got to make sure we're doing this stuff, okay? The last part I'm going to show you is not going to take me very long at all, because it's really just looking at the examples. When you're citing your evidence, you've got to make sure that you are using author's last name and page number, or whoever distributed the article or published it on their website or whatever, okay? So this first one, super straightforward. You can see here, I'm going to go and use yellow so that it's not like crazy, but it stands out. You can see here I've got author's name right here, and I've got the article's name right here. This article in particular also listed at the bottom, like page 1 of 6 and 2 of 6 and 3 of 6. So it ended up making it really easy to also have that page number. So this one was really straightforward. This one here is a little different because it is an adaptation. Adaptation just means that basically a writer took another writer's piece of work and used words and phrases that maybe either enhanced the level of the text or brought down the level of the text. Since this was done by News ELA, I am assuming that it brought down the level of the text to make this article more accessible to kids your age, okay? So what we're noticing here, we still have our title, so we would make sure we included that entire title, but then we also have the both of the different authors that worked on this. So you've got this Mr. Bloomberg fella here that did it first, but then the News ELA staff decided, that is just an ugly line, but that's okay. They decided to go ahead and adapt that for us. So you got to make sure you give that information when you are citing as well. So I got an example over here that shows you how to do that. The last example I have down here at the bottom, I gave you 2 examples. These were 2 of the resources that a lot of you used, and it's really hard because they don't give us the authors of who wrote these articles, and that makes it really hard for us. So I'm going to go ahead and instruct you guys to use the information that we have based on who put this article out there. Now, in our resources folder, it gives this information in the name of the documents that were scanned. It may not give it in the actual opened document, so you might want to have to look at the title of it as it's listed in our GMO resources. But I just wanted to show you, like, you probably recognize both of these articles, and this is how you would do it. I've got an example here for the one on the right, the National Geographic, where we just list National Geographic and the page that it came off of. All right, guys, so you're going to jump into revising work today. I know that me not being there is not exactly like the greatest thing in the universe because you are at the very end coming up on finishing a writing project, and I want to support you guys so bad. On Thursday, I came home, I got to work a little bit in the morning, and then I was just so tired, and I slept like through lunch and everything. So I apologize. I'm going to work this evening to get back to as many of you as I possibly can. So watch your email if you sent me something, just because I will probably be responding to you. I also... If you guys are concerned about anything over the weekend, you can shoot me an email, and whenever I am up and around, I will make sure that I'm getting back to you and supporting you as best I can from afar. Hopefully, I will get to see you guys on Monday. If not, you will probably get to see another one of these great lessons rolled out through Schoology, but let's just keep our fingers crossed that I'll be back with you guys on Monday, okay? So for today's work, you've got this checklist to work on. There are 4 items on this checklist. You need to make sure, now this is something most of you have done, but you need to make sure that your evidence is completely revised. You are happy with the way your evidence is formatted for your paper, and it's put into your final draft already. It's already moved over there, okay? The second thing is the unpacking revisions, okay? So like this one here, just as a reminder to you guys, this one here was the turquoise and yellow chart assignment. And then this one here, oops, I don't need to move that like that. This one here was the orange and pink chart assignment. Okay, we just turned that one in last night from when you're seeing this. It should have been turned in last night. So if you haven't done it yet, finish that up. You need to get that done. I want your evidence and your unpacking completely done and into, so that brings me to number 3, moving your unpacking over into your final essay. I want all of that stuff in there before you go in and apply what we did today, which is number 4 here, where you're going to go through and separately go through the paper for each of these 3 things. Make sure you have your transitions, your quotations, and your citations. Guys, there's nothing to submit today. I just need you to work hard. I know this is hard work. I know it is. I am recognizing that, and I want to be there with you, but I'm not. So we're going to make the best of this right now, and we're just going to work super, super hard and make sure that we have some great papers going into next week so that we can start to make them look super professional with some glossy color photos and stuff like that. Okay? Again, if you need me, shout out. I will help as much as I can and as soon as I can. Okay, guys? I love you. Goodbye. Mwah.